Hey everyone, welcome to the Industry Show. I'm your host, Nitin Bajaj, and joining me today is Anshu Gupta. Anshu, welcome on the show.
Thank you.
Well, great to have you here. Let's start with who is Anshu?
Oh, I think Anshu, Anshu is a dreamer, and Anshu is a dreamer and a doer, not only a, not only a thinker. And I would say Anshu has a lot of kidas. I mean, whatever you call it. Wanted to be a writer, photographer, poet. Uh, I'm continuing that, but not in that way. Bits and pieces, I keep doing it.
Love that. And I've gotten to know little parts of you. I've seen those stories, the jhalak of those stories that have come out. But what I've seen and what I've been truly inspired by is your work on the ground, helping people, helping save lives. So tell us why you did this, why you started Goonj, and what is Goonj. And we'll talk a little bit about the impact, the work that you and the team have done over the years. But yeah, please start with why did you start this thing, and tell us what Goonj is today.
I think Nitin Goonj happened to me. uh, because you come from a completely different background. I did my journalism and then master's in economics, and all these, like one of the life lessons for me personally is also in Hindi. I always say कि देखो या घूर के देखो. I mean, what you say in English now is that whether you observe it or you just see it. So
Right.
I think I've been blessed to have the observing mode also.
Mhm.
That's where you came across this entire issue, or rather the non-issue of clothing, that how clothing is completely ignored. Even when you talk about three basic needs, you say food, cloth, and shelter, but clothing is ignored. That's
Mhm.
how the journey started, to make sure that clothing becomes an issue
Mhm.
for the larger part of the population, not just a fashion statement, but but as a need.
Mhm.
And then because our lenses were of dignity, because of our own upbringing. So that's how this entire concept of uh, using this entire material, okay, cloth, utensils, footwear, to anything and everything which still has a life, which should not go to the landfill before completing its life cycle.
Mhm.
I'm talking non-living thing.
Right.
How do we convert that into a new currency, a new economy, where people solve their problems, people dig well, make roads, right, hardcore water, sanitation, environment, infrastructure work, and then they're rewarded in kind.
Mhm.
So it's a new economy, or it's the revival of the barter economy. And that's what Goon does. A lot of people think that we are in the business of collecting and distributing clothes. They're absolutely wrong. If I just pick up the data of last 9 years,
Mhm.
I just on this 18th Feb, we completed over 25 years. Uh,
Congratulations.
Thank you, as Goon. We are now formally we are there about 1,500 people in the organization. Anytime working on an average 20 plus states. I mean, in COVID, it even went up to 30 states and UTs and all. And if I pick up 9 years data, I think we have channelized just 9 years out of 25 years. We've been able to channelize almost about 55 million kgs of material
Wow.
uh, to the remotest part of the country in a very new model where this material also became a currency. We've done almost, I think, 50,000 plus projects on environment, on water, on sanitation, and then people are rewarded. People think it's a complicated model, but it's the easiest model because we don't help people at all. That's the wrong word. We just stand with people, and we give a chance to people to explore themselves and take care of their own issues. And we just do the nudge part.
Anshu, those are massive numbers. 55 million kilos, which is 110 million pounds, just in 9 years. That's phenomenal. That's amazing.
Thank
And to be able to touch those many lives and empower them. And as you said, you're not doing, I mean, it's an oxymoron because you are showing people how they can be better versions of themselves. But at the same time, you're just allowing them to find a new version. You're not really sitting there and just kind of working and help. It's just kind of saying, look, you can do this. You have it in you. And
Absolutely. Because I think what is going wrong, my opinion, is this entire concept of donor and beneficiary mindset.
mhm,
I mean, we've been questioning that if I give time, I am a donor.
mhm.
When the community gives time, how come they are beneficiaries?
I love
Or
that.
if I say put in some money, okay, I'm a donor.
Mhm.
But when the community makes a bamboo bridge and puts bamboo and labor, how come they're beneficiaries? I mean, we all are bringing our own resources, uh, and then this is happening. So I think what worked in our case is that completely demolishing these stereotype concept of
Mhm.
haves and have-nots and donor and beneficiaries kind of thing. Even when you talk about haves and have-nots, they might not be having some say material asset,
Right.
but apart from they are not have-nots. They have skill, they have labor, they have grit. They know much more than us in terms of innovations. Okay, I mean we do it in the labs what they do in the field.
Yes.
So I think we've just taken this approach of a stakeholder, and the moment you say stakeholder, or if you do not make people a stakeholder, you are actually losing on hands and brain. But when you make people a stakeholder, it's a collective effort. I mean, as I always say, that doing good is a collective responsibility. We all take care of that responsibility.
I love that. I love that context. I love that setting that we are all in this together. It's not, I have something that you may not, but you have something that I may not. And that exchange is what elevates us and elevates the community. So we shouldn't look at it in terms of the giver and the taker. It's really how can I contribute and how can we all rise up and become better versions and bring a better tomorrow than we have today.
Yeah,
Love that.
absolutely.
Anshu, tell us about, I mean, you've seen a lot and you're knowing you and having heard a lot of the work that has happened, I know that, Anshu, you have seen a lot. And by a lot, I mean a lot of challenges, a lot of life. You've been there in the trenches, worked with people in the dirt. You're not one of those founders that sits on the chair and has a team out in the field. You're in the field. Having seen everything that you have, what is the one big challenge that you would want to call out today?
Uh, I think the growing inequality
Mhm.
uh, for sure, and the, the people who have as defined terms of the society, which I don't agree,
Mhm.
but people who have are having more,
Yeah.
and and also I think one of the biggest challenge I feel that we have not learned anything. COVID tried to tell us
Mhm.
that all the big things fail and the small works,
Yes.
right? The big hospitals were not
Mhm.
that effective, were not able to save people. Then the small paracetamol or the crocin, uh, uh, they given by a small, not even called an expert,
Mhm.
a small time health worker somewhere. Right? We never understood that airports fail, but the
Mhm.
small lorries work. Uh, we never understood that this was the support people who were always called the blue collar or white collar or blue collar or whatever collar.
Yeah.
They were the people because of whom we survived.
True.
Right? So I think I was hoping and that the society will change in a big way,
Mhm.
because this was one disaster which was global disaster, which was next to me. It happened with me. All
Mhm.
of us went through that fear, that loss. There's no one in the world who has not lost anyone, you know, maybe in either nearby or a little bit distant, someone. So that's a big challenge, because I'm just wondering that if COVID couldn't teach us anything,
Mhm.
what will teach us? What will teach us respect? What will teach us trust? What will teach us uh, valuing the smallest possible thing in the world? You know, what will teach us valuing oxygen,
Mhm.
the trees?
Yeah,
So
that is.
that I always feel is a big challenge, because Goonj is just a medium. Fine, Goonj for me is not the destination. Uh, Goonj happened, and Goonj is a part of journey. Goonj is a tool, right? But where are you using this tool? In the middle of such huge arrogance, in the middle of people who make decisions without listening to the people who make decisions, in the middle of people who are not accepting that our intentions are good but something failed.
Mhm.
It's important to relook into it. I mean, I'm not demanding anything, right? I'm just saying that I'm not doubting on intentions of us, the world, the so-called haves.
Mhm.
I'm saying that it gave us a chance to relook. It gave us a chance to sit silently and say something failed. We couldn't save so many people. Ultimately, uh, the farmers, and this is a common statement I always make to make it a point, that even in a country like India and many other parts of the world, farmers must have innovated 8,000, 10,000, 15,000 different variety of rice itself.
Mhm.
But you still call farming unskilled. Yeah? If it is
That's.
not arrogance, it is what?
Yes.
Because of them, we all survived in the world.
Mhm.
Not because of the factories, but because of the farmers. But do we, in the world, do we really value that? That's the question. So for me, that's one of the biggest challenges. I'm just trying to see that uh, in the remaining years of life, uh, what will happen? How will it shape up? What will be the trigger where some large scale change really happens? Non-political, non-religious. There are other ways of doing.
And I agree, and that is a big question that we all need to answer ourselves is what will it take for us to really pause and introspect, right? If such a massive crisis of our generation, of our lifetime, we were we were all scared. There was fear, but that fear didn't go deep enough, right? And to your point, it's a very introspective question, and I never thought of it that way, right? Yeah, why do we call farmers unskilled? That's such a core essential need for our survival. In fact, on the other extreme, if I were to build on that and say it is the processed food that kills us, it's not the
Hmm.
natural one.
No, not at all.
So,
No. And if
very
you
deep
see all
thought.
across the globe, peoples in villages survive more than the cities.
Yes,
It's not just for India.
yes,
Everywhere.
true. Now, on the other side of challenges come opportunities. And as you're thinking and guiding us through these hard hitting realities, I would love for you to share what's that one big, most exciting opportunity that brings a smile to you?
Oh, I see a lot of this powerful youth happening in a big way, right? And we all need to remember the thing that and when we started, we were also exactly the same age. We are still youth, but even that time, we were also exactly the same age. I see that as a huge opportunity, because uh, whatever people call about youth, I know that youth unfortunately get a lot of negative remarks and the positive they deserve, right?
Yeah.
Because blaming them that they are always on mobile kind of thing. No, I mean, it's part of life now. What? But and what I see, and especially when I've seen it through my team, through hundreds of people with whom personally we have been able to work, or I've been able to work personally. I see a huge hope. I see that they're aware. I see they need to do something at speed. Uh, they're coming up with a lot of kidas. They're coming up with new ideas. They're coming up with new innovations, and they do it with musti. They do it with fun, which is very important because
Mhm.
one thing which I've been saying, right from the beginning, that by showing poverty on your face, you can't remove the poverty. When I say poverty, I only talk about the economic poverty, social
Sure.
poverty. There are 15 different ways kind of poverty.
Mhm.
So you see that fun part. You see that music.
Mhm.
Uh, so that gives me a lot of yes. Uh, they need to be much more aware. They need to understand that it is not their problem. I mean, outside the problem, it is their own problem also because we all want to live in a better world. They have the opportunity. They have the resources. Uh, they need to be a little bit more focused, more aware, and say that the time is now. We can't wait for it. Fortunately, most of them and many of them are in a good position because if I talk about my father's generation,
Mhm.
they were in the survival mode.
Right.
We were in the middle somewhere. And these people, most of them are not in the survival mode. Their parents have taken good care of them in
Mhm.
terms of education and assets. They're in the growth mode. And if I grow personally and the entire world we leave behind, it's not growth,
True.
not at all. So that's an opportunity, little bit of correction, tweaking.
Mhm.
If that happens and that happens at a speed, because the time is now. I mean, if you see Palestine,
Mhm.
if you see Afghanistan, and if you see Ukraine, and what is happening, that or so many other natural disasters, not only human made,
Mhm.
uh, that risk is also next door.
True.
I think that also should bother us. That also we should see as an opportunity that we are going through the worst time. At least in our life history, what happened in the past, I only read. I was not a part of it.
Right.
But whatever so I can't say that no, this is how society operates. It happened in past also. It must have happened. Maybe people must have tried to take care of it. But this is happening in my lifetime.
Mhm.
So I am responsible for this. I need to respond to this.
You're right. It's really up to us how we help the next generation navigate. They do have a good foundation, whether we take for it or not. They do have a good foundation. How can we be there as coaches and mentors and not people who doubt them and create that negativity around, uh, yeah, devices and other things, or the fact that they don't have to come from that scarcity mindset because they have it better than we did and our parents did. But how do we help them make the most of what we have so we can take it to the next level? I agree. And also to your point about the natural and disasters that we have made, it is again to your previous point, that should be an awakening call for us, right? What can we do and what can we do better from here? Because yeah, if we don't take action and if we don't change what is our reality, then it'll keep getting worse.
Yeah, and I think all these disasters, including COVID and these wars,
Mhm.
have taught us that disaster is not about some financially vulnerable or someone who's socially backward
Right.
person, because we always connect disaster with the people that they suffer, they are the victims kind of thing. Every single disaster what I just spoke about, these
Mhm.
two three wars and this COVID,
Mhm.
it has actually touched every single person of
Yes.
whatever economic status. You must be owning a company, the best possible company in Ukraine,
Mhm.
and now unfortunately you are forced to be a refugee.
True. True. Anju, one thing I really loved about what you said by using that example of you cannot remove poverty by looking poor, I'm a big believer in that, that you have to show and give hope. And that's where the transformation begins. And a lot of this work and a lot of these points that you touched upon are about paradigm shifts, are about making these big transformations. And to be able to do that, you have to show that change is possible, improvement is possible, and this is what it looks like. Right? There is happiness, there is joy. If you're trying to go to a group that is dealing with sadness. So I'm a big believer of leading by example, and you're a shining light on that. So wanted to bring that back in perspective. Now, as we look forward, I want to take a moment and go back in time, look at the rearview mirror, and talk about two moments in your life and career. One where things did not work out as you had expected, and it became a failure, and to be better worded, a lesson. And another example where things went beyond your imagination and it became a success to an extent that you hadn't even expected it to be.
Nitin, one of the constant failure, even we are in the process of failure only till date,
Mhm,
is that we have not been able to register this entire issue of clothing and material poverty,
mhm,
uh, and so many other things which we do, and where we have huge amount of proof of concept in a huge country like India, which is like a lab. Fine. So
mhm,
if you do anything in even if 7 8 states of India, is basically a replicable model anywhere in the world. So I think one of the failure which I would say is the uh, we are not able to pass it on to the world as the better way, as the way forward, as not only the ideology but the idea,
mhm,
or the non-issues which we've been talking about. You get into the global agenda.
mhm,
That and maybe I'll not justify it, but we should have done it for sure.
mhm,
It's our moral responsibility also that every single little success must be out in the market so that people copy, replicate,
mhm,
and give it a local flavor. But I think it was too overwhelming for us to sort out what we were doing, and especially when we also entered in the disaster response spaces.
mhm,
But now this Goon 3.0, which we are saying, is all about replication and copy, and we are saying that whatever we are doing, we're doing, but people need to copy, people need to replicate, and we need to stand with people to make sure that the copy happens, and it happens in an easy way. So this was a failure. This has been a failure, but we're working on it. So maybe if we meet after a couple of years, we should be able to give some good stories.
Well, we'll hold you accountable to it because I know you're good for it. And
Absolutely.
you know, before you talk about the success, I want to acknowledge that it's not easy for a leader to admit that this is what we did wrong, but it takes an even better person and a better leader to say, this is how we are fixing it, and we have a roadmap for it, and we are on it right now. So, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And success, I would say the entire response on COVID, and the fact that uh, half of our team come from those vulnerable background in
Mhm,
terms of economy and all that. But not even a single person started walking on the roads. I call it a big success with a lot of emotions
mhm,
uh, because that is the story of trust. That is the story where not even a single person, when the relatives of those people were trying to go home, okay, when they were losing jobs, when the entire COVID crisis happened, none of our team member really, not even a piece rate person whose income only happens on piece rate. Not even a single person got up and started walking or called us up to find out whether they are safe or not, whether they will get their little bit of salaries or whatever. No one asked us. For me, that's extremely emotional.
Yes.
For me, that is something which, uh, I mean, I can come here and talk about I, but that's all useless because there's nothing like I. And this is a constant exercise, and maybe I'll tell you later.
Mhm.
Uh, this is the result of we. We means not only the team, but hundreds of people around us. Uh, to build this space, which is the space of trust, which is the space of love, which is the space of care, and where people don't just move out thinking that what will happen.
Mhm.
So for me, not only the operational part of COVID response, we did, and I think we did a okay job. Took all kind of risks which we were supposed to, but more importantly, uh, the people part of it that I call a success for sure.
And
And and and and importantly, we need to acknowledge that we are not like big industry, right?
Mhm.
We don't have reserves in our life. Uh, we don't have bank loans or NPA, non-performing asset facilities. We are completely dependent on small contributions of people. Yeah.
no, I want to acknowledge that success. It's huge because, as you said, these people, the vulnerable population, as they are called, which again, I don't agree with the labels, but so be it. So when we go down to the basics of food, shelter, and clothing, and your only means when you don't have reserves has completely stopped, how can you continue to be selfless, right? And that's a sign of success as a leader, as an organization, and as a human being. So congratulations to you and to your entire team for putting others first and being truly selfless, because this is where the real person comes out. So, again, hats off to you and your team for being there for each other, for really inspiring and showing what we truly means. So really appreciate that.
Thank you, Nathan.
So, before we go through the next questions, I want to take a moment here and ask you, how can we help? How can the audience, how can people that are watching and listening to this, what can they do to help?
Uh, so I'll go to a larger thing. When I was leaving my job uh, with a private firm, so I'd done a very small calculation that ideally the fees should have been this much, and I paid only this much. And then I asked that if that fees was that much, was it possible for my parents to pay? And the answer was no. And I'm sure they would have paid, but it would have been very, very tough. And it would have really impacted our life in many other ways. So that was the day, almost like now, I'm talking about 1998, uh, when I was leaving job. Uh, I realized that I'm the biggest product of subsidy. Then I also realized that every single person who goes to a government school, college,
Mhm.
even even many of these private universities across the globe, not only my country, they really, really eat a huge amount of subsidy. And subsidy never comes from the government or from the rich people.
Mhm.
Subsidy comes from the farmers and laborers. Again, the labeled vulnerable.
Yes.
They give subsidy to
Mhm.
because they're never given fair prices. Imagine if a farmer starts getting
Mhm.
uh, the daily wages, me and you will not be able to touch rice or and
Yes.
don't even think of making dishes out of it,
Mhm.
cakes and all, but we will not be able to touch even the basic, right? So that subsidy comes from that, and that 2020, the COVID crisis also proved that me and you were enjoying life through Zoom and getting our own salaries and everything. But the people who made our houses or people who have been feeding us were on the road.
Mhm.
So my realization that we are the product of subsidy, and a lot of us were talking and listening also are the same category. So I'm not debating on whether we should get subsidy or not. That's a huge issue. We'll talk about it later.
Mhm.
But one thing which is sure is that me and you can pay back.
Yes.
Large number of population across the globe still need that kind of support, but me and you have come out of that. We
Yes.
can pay back. So my simple message to the audience is that take it as a debt,
Mhm.
take it as a karja.
Yes.
Don't give back, pay back.
Yes.
Okay, pay back to whatever non-religion, non-politics. I would say because religion and politics are your personal thing. You end up giving whatever you want.
Right.
I'm talking about people. Give back to people. Give back to people with humility, not for a picture for Facebook.
Yes.
Fine. Give back by keeping their dignity intact because dignity is not something you can give to people.
Mhm.
Dignity is something which is a part of your soul. People are born with that. So don't challenge that.
Yes.
Right? Just make that happen because uh, if each one of us have something good, we live in a better society. So it's be selfish in doing good,
Yes.
because it helps you, it helps me, it helps everyone. It doesn't just support that person who you think need help. Even I need help. I need smiling faces around me. I when I move out, I do not want to see injustice.
Mhm.
I That injustice bothers me. Well, I mean, it distorts my dinner, if nothing else. If I see a sad face, someone begging, it bothers me. So I'm saying, let me be selfish. Let me do it for myself.
Very beautifully put. And yes, we all need to appeal to ourselves to, as you rightly said, pay back, not give. It's not giving. We are paying back the debt we've acquired over the years, and we all have. So thank you for saying that. Now, this is, you live a busy life. You have to travel. You have to travel to the innermost parts of India, and then, of course, to other countries to talk about the work you and your team is doing. In between all of this, and as a family person, playing different roles and wearing different hats, what's the one thing you do to de-stress, to enjoy, to have fun, to maybe take a break if you ever do?
A break, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, of course it happens. But you know, I love driving, uh,
Mhm.
and favorite pastime it's some good street food, which fortunately all three of us, me, my wife, who is also co-founder, and daughter, three of us love. So the pani puri is a favorite pastime. The golgappas is
Yes.
a favorite pastime. We also, I think, COVID taught us how to play Uno. We used to, because we were confined and we were too busy. We come out with this games of Uno and used to cheat each other in that game. You know, uh, yeah. I mean that's it. I'm trying to come back to the hobby of music,
Mhm.
listening and singing. I'm trying to come back. Let's see how it happens.
You want to give us a jhalak?
Huh? I mean, maybe 2 years later.
Done. Done. We'll make a note of that. And then, of course, you're also a writer and a photographer, so I'm sure you sneak out a little bit of time for those hobbies as well.
I need to. I mean, that's where I'm missing. I know that writing gives me a lot of satisfaction.
Mhm.
I also started writing majorly after COVID. Uh, I started writing something called Covidi.
Mhm.
Uh, okay, because it. But then I realized that after writing a couple of big pieces, I realized that I'm actually coming up with a lot of sadness and anger,
Mhm.
and I don't want that entire book to become, the grunt of this sadness and anger, and I leave that in the history. No, I do not. So I stopped myself that way. I said no because that time that was the only thing which was coming out.
True.
So, but I'll complete that now that I have we have a lot of stories of great, lot of stories of love. After that, during that, I'm sure complete that poetry book sometime.
Okay. Another thing on our follow-up session to check in on. Okay. Made a note of that. Now, on to my favorite part of the show. Would love to hear some one-line life lessons from you, Anshu.
I would say the first important thing is lug it all. Okay, so be on it uh, that way. Uh, the second is that I would say there's nothing like and I personally do this because I think people like us have a chance that anything goes in your head. So I'm not into meditation. I'm not. Although people call me spiritual, but I don't know how. I I don't practice anything. But before sleeping, one thing within which has really worked with me, and that's a life lesson for me. A little bit, not one sentence, but a story. That before sleeping, if you and I do it, even at 12 or 1, if I just spend a couple of minutes with me myself and say that how many times I've used I, and then you realize that 70% of that not I, maybe more than 70%. And at 12 in the night, you understand it's all about me. As I often jokingly tell people that at least till 2 o'clock next day, you will have humility. After two, you might be arrogance again, but then at 12 you'll be trash. You know, so that's the life cycle for us. So that's an important life lesson. Uh, and then I always say that you have problems in volume, you need solutions in volume, you need people to solve those issues also in volume. There's nothing like either or. It's all about and. And then the last one, I would say that I mean, doers never look for a logic; they just do it. But if you don't want to do it, then you keep looking for logics, not doing it often. Doers just get into it. They fail, they succeed, they improve, they change. But they have that mindset of lagera because those kiras are important. Those experiments are important. Because at the end of the day, Nitin, all of us have got one life. COVID also taught us that there's no guarantee. With the best possible resources and the biggest possible buildings we create for ourselves, and the popularity we all create for ourselves. We might be the king in the whatever. But one small invisible virus takes away everything from you. So live that life. And I often go to the colleges to talk and all, and I often promote the idea of bunking classes and reading engineering, but maybe playing guitar because you came in compulsion, in pressure, and we will hold you responsible because you wasted some resources. I also have been talking about it, in my other session. But as an individual, you have to live your life. If playing guitar makes you happy, do that. Just one life.
Anshu, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your story, but more importantly, for being you and doing what you do, not as I, as a we, uh, but leading that change, leading an entire tribe, an entire generation to do well, to be better versions, to be humans, and to acknowledge other humans and uplift the community. We really appreciate it. You are my hero, and thank you for inspiring me and continuing to motivate me. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nathan. Be on it.